over there, and if you take it, we're gonna get well. And listen, we're gonna get well. If you saw my post, you know that we're gonna be talking about the infamous 33, and it's gonna be a healthy conversation. You can join us on 6-837-1112, and let me tell you who my guests in case you're not looking at my page. I know you didn't forget, but we got the Honorable Betty Jean Grant. And I'm going to tell you the truth. We got another honorable person in here, and that's Sherrill. And we're going to have a good talk, because there's a lot of talk going on about the 33. There's action going on about the 33. If you want to know which side the good action is when people who are going to be affected start talking and speaking back about what their needs are and what they want. And so who's on the wrong side? Well, I'm going to tell you, this is not Betty and this is not Sherry, but I'm going to tell you, the political forces are on the wrong side. Their role in this is not a healthy one. If you just take the subject of doing a CBA, a community benefits agreement, I find it kind of insulting that they can't do one on this project, but in the project you just saw in the paper a few weeks ago, they're willing not only to do that, it's like they're bringing their whole team, the higher team that can really assess whether there's a benefit and where, if there isn't a benefit, what they need to do. They haven't done that with the 33, but I'm going to shut up now and I'm going to turn the mics over to my guests and they're going to talk to us about this. And I want you to understand this is a serious moment.
It truly is.
Because we have political representation that is not representing us, but is playing clubhouse politics based on somebody else. And, if they're not, I welcome them to come to the show and tell me why they can't listen to the requests of the community. And with that said, we're going to get deeper into it. Welcome, ladies, sisters.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, Jim. I did a whole lot of shows with you. We do a lot of stuff environmentally, and also people's rights and human rights and all these other rights that we seem to have forgotten, some of us. And so I'm just happy to be here this morning with my co-partner of Little Women Warriors, Sherrill.
How are you? How are you doing, Mr. Anderson?
Magnificent.
Thank you, sir, for all that you do to keep our community focused and moving forward. I'm so very grateful to you, and I'm also grateful to my dear mother, the Honorable Betty Jean Grant, whom I've learned so much from. And sometimes people act like they can't tell us apart. And I'm here to tell you, we really are two different persons.
Same spirit. Y'all got the same left hook and right uppercut. So,
you mentioned how serious this conversation is. And I can tell you, as a second generation community activist, I never really truly hoped that I would get my feet this close to the fire as they are right now, because it is truly painful what I have learned about the Kensington Expressway project. Mm-hmm. When initially I heard that there was going to be a Kensington Expressway project, I had been talking about it off and on for about 10, 15 years to my mother, my dear mother, and she had expressed, I don't know if it's going to happen in our lifetime. It's hard to get government to get up, stand up, and do something for the people. And I assured her, I said, Mother, we just saw the Black Lives Matter movement. Environmental justice is all the rage all across the country, and indeed all around the world has caught fire. There is absolutely going to be a Kensington Expressway project, and within both our lifetimes, I dare say. But Mr. Anderson, the project is a misgiven. It is not a good project. Everything about the project is wrong, from its scope, from its planning, from its design, from what it's got as a capital construction objective, which is to preserve the Kensington Expressway. The Kensington Expressway is making people sick. And when I say that unequivocally. I am absolutely convinced that all of the global studies that have been done about high-speed, high highways and freeways, making people sick with all kinds of cancers and Alzheimer's and dementia and sarcoidosis and asthma and emphysema and bronchitis and lupus and strokes and heart attacks and heart diseases, hypertension. All of these are not anybody's imagination.
Right.
Highways make people sick, and including the Kensington Expressway.
Yeah, and I got involved with the Kensington Expressway. I came to Buffalo in 1970, so I didn't see the beautiful trees that they had on the parkway.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, that's what people tell me. And then lately I've seen pictures, and I just can't imagine waking up one morning and have a big tree cutting machine there and cutting those trees down. So it was beautiful. And around about 2003, discussion started with Clark Eaton and this was before Lumen Ross. It was Clark Eaton and who's the other person? It might have been Lumen Ross. And they were talking about a cap on the Humboldt Parkway. At that time, they thought that they could cap it over and that would be a solution. But at that same time as well, there was movement for restoration, full restoration. As you know, the same guy who built Central Park, New York City, came to Buffalo, Calvin Vaux and Ferdinand Umstead, and built all the 7 parks and 8 parkway system. And so at one time, Casanova Park was connected through Smith Street, Fillmore Avenue by trees to Humboldt Park, and by trees on Humboldt Parkway to Delaware Park. That was connected to Riverside Park and Front Park. So at one time in the mid-1900s, you had Buffalo from South Buffalo going all the way to the east side of Buffalo, going to North Buffalo, then double back on the west side. The Front Park was connected. So you could really get a bike or a horse or whatever and travel the whole thing. And Humboldt Parkway, they said, was one of the most beautiful parkways, all of them. Look at Bidwell Parkway now. Look at Jewett Parkway. It was the biggest and it was most fantastic. They said most magnificent. I think trees were a little bit taller then. And can you imagine that a system that was put in place by design? Because at that time, 1901, when they had the exposition here, Buffalo was the richest city in the country. It was 8th largest in population, and it was the richest city. So at that time, Buffalo was growing. They had all the mills here, the grain mills. So they saw a need to maybe have an expressway, especially after World War II, when soldiers came home and soldiers, white soldiers, not our black soldiers, were able to buy those houses in the suburb. So they created an expressway to give people that don't look like us a faster way of getting out of Buffalo. So the express was never for the African American community, never benefited us. In fact, it detrimented us because at the time they started putting an expressway. That's when blacks started moving in. They were getting jobs at General Motors and Ford and the steel plants. So they was able to buy those houses on Humboldt Parkway, and Humboldt Parkway is the neighborhood.
Well, Betty Jean, you've said a mouthful, and let me, if I can, just backtrack a little bit and tell people just who I am. My name is Sherrill. In addition to being the eldest of Betty Jean here, I'm also the president, the founder, and CEO of Covington Associates Consulting, which is obviously a Black and woman-owned small business. And for the last 6 months, I've been lit dropping the Humboldt Parkway neighborhood, and that is where I became first, from a first-hand basis, from stories and tales, and not lying tales, but stories, actual true factual stories of how many people and persons and households contain a person who's been made sick by the Kensington Expressway. Someone may say, why, if the Kensington Expressway is making people sick, is it not being removed? How come the entire political establishment almost of upstate Western New York, specifically here, especially in Erie County and in the city of Buffalo, are not advocating for the removal of that highway? And your question is a very good one. I'm going to try to answer it. Dating all the way back to 2009, not 2021, 22, nor 2023, the community engagement and public participation process was unfolded at New York State Department of Transportation. There were several persons and community groups that sent representatives to become a community advisory committee. Looking at the meeting minutes from those 2009 meetings, it is stated in very clear print that the decision decision to cap and stitch or to put a concrete tunnel, a $56 million concrete tunnel over the Kensington Expressway or on top of the Kensington Expressway was made back then. We were lied to. When the governor announced this project back in 2022, I believe it was in the January, that she came and said there's going to be $1 billion to do a Kensington Expressway project and there's going to be community participation and public engagement. That was a misnomer. The public engagement and public participation happened 15 years earlier. That is why you even heard politicians, when we came out with a very vibrant, a very robust, a very serious and detail-oriented, a very aggressive community opposition on last fall. That is why you heard even politicians playing the reverse race card and saying things like, why are people speaking up now? We spoke up when it became apparent to us that we needed to.
That's, and that's one of the things that's so important, because there's an attempt by some to try and make it sound like y'all don't know what you're talking about,
Right.
and that y'all making a fuss about nothing. But that's a farce. And it's shameful. They want to try and blemish you. But the fact is, just as you pointed out, the decision was made years ago. The action that has been occurring in the last few years have not been in line with what the community would desire. And I would also argue this. At that time, remember, let's go back to 1970. When we talk about these years, I don't want people to think like that, racism was light.
Right.
Look, most of our representatives were in the belly of the beast, and many of them wind up surrendering. Well, I don't even say surrender. I dare say some of them went in there with a for sale sign. They didn't serve the community. They became an extension of those in power, not recognizing their own power, and surrendered and did their bidding. And I think around this project right now, I would argue that our politicians are failing us by not getting with the community and representing what the community has said. They're arguing because they had the idea of saying, yeah, we want it.
Let me just say this.
And they want to fight. They want to make it seem like everybody else has got it wrong. I say shame on them.
Way back in 2009, at the very first meeting, it was held on, I believe, August 13th of 2009, there was a statement made by one of the community, self-appointed community representatives. Is a need of this project going to be addressing the high rate of respiratory diseases and the fact that this project is splitting the community? You know what happened in addressing that question at that meeting? Absolutely nothing. Now, the community activist hat that I've always worn and the community advocacy banner that I've always operated under since a very young girl always taught me that when you pose a serious question, you expect a serious answer, and you keep posing that question until you receive a serious attempt to answer you seriously. Now, I don't know how you can excuse even a politician knowing that that question was asked and not addressing it as a public elected official and community leader their own selves. I want to tell you, after Betty Jean, I know you want to weigh in on that, but I'm going to tell you about what I call the tale of two cities and Expressway Gate, because what North Buffalo residents received as environmental justice with the Scajaquada 198 project is very, very different from what we are being dished out and doled out and piecemealed out here in the heart of the inner city and east side Buffalo.
Okay,
Could you get some clarity on that? Because some people might not know what you mean when you say the Scajaquada.
The Scajaquada Expressway is Route 198. There's not just the Kensington Expressway project that's going on right now. There's also a Scajaquada 198 project that's commencing roughly at about the same time. So there's two major, they're actually called mega projects. There's two mega projects that Department of Transportation was undertaking, except they got booted from the Scajaquada Expressway project. They're no longer leading the Scajaquada Expressway project, which which is going to convert the Skajaqua 198 near Parkside Avenue and the Delaware Park in North Buffalo into a beautiful urban boulevard and thoroughfare. You're not going to see the 198. The 198 there near Delaware Park is officially going to be history. That was supposed to and could have happened to Route 33 had we had authentic and dedicated community activism and advocacy, promoting and insisting, demanding that that occurred.
Yep. For those who don't realize where it starts is the Humboldt Parkway starts Cherry Street, the 33 downtown. It goes through Humboldt Parkway. The renovation they're proposing, the tunnel, is on the 33, starts at Dart Street from downtown, and it goes to Sydney Street, which is on 3/4 of a mile of the Humboldt Parkway. The Humboldt Parkway, extends from where I just named all the way to Parkside. That is Humboldt, the Assistant Hospital.
Mhm.
That portion near Assistant Hospital is also part of the Skajaqua 198 Expressway. That would no longer be an expressway. So after that gets taken out, that expressway removed, and a boulevard is installed with trees and wider lanes and everything else, we won't have one expressway on the east side of Buffalo, and that would be the 33 Expressway. You know why we have that? Because people don't want it out, because it provides a quicker way to get from downtown
What
to
people
the
people
suburb.
don't want it out.
The people who don't live in the city of Buffalo, who don't live on Humboldt Parkway. In early 2000, we noticed that there was some information foil that had minutes of a group that met. As you know, ROCC, the ROC, is the Restore Our Community Coalition. They was meeting with the Department of Transportation in the mid-2000s, not last year, year before last, in the mid-2000s. They were meeting with the Department of Transportation, and they came to a consensus then that there are two options really that was in line. One was to remove the expressway, the other was to put in a tunnel. Because putting in a tunnel did not require an environmental impact statement, the EIS, they chose to put in the tunnel.
The EIS would have declared, would have investigated, would have researched and documented all of the claims of environmental illnesses and sicknesses. We got to realize this. Take off the rose-colored lenses and see this situation for what it really truly is. We've heard about disasters affecting our community and being imposed and inflicted against us. We talk about Black Wall Street. We talk about that race riot that destroyed that thriving Black commercial and residential, densely populated residential district. We talk about things like Rosewood that happened in the U.S. state of Florida. But do we recognize when we've got a disaster sitting right in our own laps here in the city of Buffalo? The Kensington Expressway is a disaster circumstance that's being paved over with a new installation of a retrofitted $56 million tunnel and a fake 3/4 mile park. I call the park what it is. That's a fake park.
Okay.
The real park that we have is MLK Park, Humboldt Parkway, sitting right there, that should have been reconnected all the way back to Delaware Park. See, many of us who don't know what our opinion ought to be about the Kensington Expressway don't remember how short some of our memories are, because some of us are older and should remember what Humboldt Parkway originally looked like when Black people began to move into that neighborhood and the U.S. federal government decided to remove the value of living in that zip code away from Black people. That is what happened. And the excuse of needing to build that highway so that the Department of Defense could have a way quickly in and out of the inner city, that was merely an excuse. What was done here in Buffalo was done all over the United States of America. Highways, freeways, expressways like the Route 33 Kensington Expressway were built wherever there was a thriving or an incoming Black and brown population. And it was done to destroy the value of living in those inner city zip code areas away from us as a people. But what they did was environmental warfare, because it was known then that living too close to a high-speed freeway, which is anywhere within a mile of one, despite the 500 feet that New York State Department of Transportation is trying to tell us now is some kind of a buffer zone, The buffer zone in the U.S. state of California is 1,000 minimum feet before you build a sensitive use, before you build a house, before you build a church, before you build a school, before you put a business or a hospital, a clinic or a daycare, a skilled nursing facility. Here in Buffalo, we're being told to settle for a fake park atop a new tunnel, and that new tunnel kept doing that project of a tunnel kept the New York State Department of Transportation from being required to produce a document and to do a type of study that would have documented all the illnesses that our Black brothers and sisters and that are complaining of that live in the Kensington Expressway
I'm gonna wait
corridor.
on this one. What I was saying before, that there were two choices. There was like 10 options. They tell us now there's 10 options they could have gone, but it was meeting mid 2000. They were talking about restoration. Faculty Stephanie Barbara Jeter was saying that restoration, that we should restore the Humboldt Parkway. She was asking questions about the people who were sick, that there were rumors of people being sick on Humboldt Parkway. She was asking that we need to do an environmental impact statement. Now, environmental impact statement was found out what action was taken when they put the expressway in, what damage could it have done, did it do any damage, and what damage would be going forward if the expressway was not removed. So if we had had the restoration project as an option that was embraced by this community, and it was, but the DOT knew that if they had said, let's restore the parkway, let's get rid of the expressway, that EIS statement would have documented that people have gotten sick, that people will get sick, and people will die from living so close to the expressway. So they took that off the table. They took it off the table, but they didn't really take it off the writing. Anytime that Restore Our Community Coalition said we want to explore environmental statement, we want to assess the health aspect of people living on Humboldt Parkway, they were told that it's a tunnel or nothing. And so going back, so when they started having meetings in 2021 saying, there's 10 options and we have eliminated all 10 options.
There really was only one.
There was only one. It was the tunnel. Option 10, which was restoration, was never brought before the community in these 2022, 2023 meetings, because they knew that people on Humboldt Parkway, people on the east side of Buffalo, most people did not want that tunnel. They want the full restoration, and they was fighting for that. So they never, ever had that as an option when, in fact, it was on paper. So what happened? The DOT managed and steered a decision that was made in 2005.
Absolutely.
Steered a decision to people saying, okay, y'all voted for the tunnel. And when they found out that when really the East Side Parkway Coalition got involved, other people got involved and started holding meetings and started walking like Sherry did on Humboldt Parkway and say,
Yep.
Do you realize there is going to be trees on Humboldt Parkway? They said, yes, trees. She said, do you realize that trees can be planted in the ground and the expressway filled in? Because they were told trees, but they weren't told about the tunnel. They said, well, you know what, we want that. Sure, we want that. And she said, but the option one that the DOT is pursuing, that you guys say, well, trees has a tunnel beneath it. Did you know that? Oh, no, we weren't told there's a tunnel beneath it. So the people on Humboldt Parkway and other areas was told about the trees. They said that they weren't told that trees only were planted down 3 feet and 3 feet of soil. They didn't know that the trees are these many trees, not the majestic trees that could have been, excuse me. And so the option that was brought before the people was a predetermined option that was made in 2005.
And now
So
they're
wait,
gonna
wait,
fix
pause.
it.
I have a question though, because I'm just asking a question. So you're very, very knowledgeable about this. And so like, this is the first time I've heard about your org, like the stuff that you're doing as a consultant. Since we're on the radio, can we like maybe help people understand, or maybe it's too late, right? So I don't know which group was doing the stuff on the 198 project, but hopefully we could be like thought partners with them. But then the second piece is that how could people connect with you to rally together? There's a great book by Seth Godin called Tribes. And so we know a tribe starts with just one or two other people that are like really excited with some tangible things. Because my background in engineering says, when I look at the highway right now and I see these sub projects happening, it looks like to me they're preparing for the tunnel. That's just my background in planning and doing like structural projects. It looks like they're in the process of planning. So is it too late is the first question. The second question is, how can people partner with you to maybe deviate like they did with the 198 project to have another alternative, the ones that you talk about?
I think what happened, let me answer this part, you can do it. I have to
Sure.
finish this. Excuse me. I think what they need to do is to contact their governor, our assembly person, and our senator, who's right now running for Congress, because they're the one who are cheerleading this project. It's not the people and not the resident. And so what needs to happen is that People's Cochaquota had the support of their senator, Senator Sean
You just
Ryan.
answered the question I was
They had
going
the
to
support
answer.
of their assembly
Thank you.
person, who was John Revere. And because of those senator and assembly person and a very strong active members, most of the people in the East Side Parkway Coalition who work with us, work with the Cochaquota corridor, make sure they ensure that that was put on brakes and given to an organization. The DOT stepped away when people said, we don't have any confidence in you because you're trying to do really the same thing you did to the people in Humboldt Parkway. So they became engaged. They became critical. They attend meetings, and they didn't allow their elected officials to not represent them. Most people in Humboldt Parkway do not want, I say 8-1, the tunnel to be put in place. But no elected official that I know of the three I've named, have called in the individual. They have come to a meeting we had at the Meriwether Library, and they walked out before the meeting was over with.
You said they walked out
Of a meeting.
Okay.
Because most people in the meeting, those residents was in favor of the restoration of the Humboldt Parkway, and there wasn't what they wanted to hear. So they walk out. They didn't want to hear people telling them that I'm sick. I have a brother-in-law that lives on Brunswick Boulevard in Humboldt Parkway. He's sick. His mother-in-law is sick. Her daughter's sick, all with illnesses that can be directly related to living so close to the 33 Expressway. There's one gentleman there, I won't call his name, but he has a list of 20 individuals who have either had members die or sick from COPD, from asthma, from cancer, that can be directly related to the Humboldt Parkway. Now, I'm going to talk about the 14208 zip code. UB, the Environment Protection Agency, the EPA, gave a grant to University of Buffalo of $449,000 to study zip codes on the east side of Buffalo who might be impacted by poor air quality, who might have a high incident of asthma, COPD, and other these respiratory illnesses. That study named every zip code 14202, 14204, 14211, 14212, 14214, but it didn't, and 14209, but did not name 14208, and that is the west side of Humboldt Parkway. So the omission of 14208 is very significant because that is where the expressway is that we're trying to get removed. And I want to say that in West New York, we had the Robert Moses Expressway removed from Humboldt Park. From Niagara Falls. That's going to be removed, but it's being removed. Also, excuse me. Just 1 second. Also, we have the Syracuse 181 Expressway. That is going to be removed. Everywhere, Rochester and the Loop, everywhere in Western New York that they have had expressways that divide inner city or the Black community is being removed, except the 33 Expressway on Humboldt Parkway.
So that's why I'm asking a question, and I'm gonna just reframe it because I know sometimes I'm slow on the actionable what we can do today, because today is Earth Day. And I was shocked, when I saw Michigan and Sycamore, I came to the station today and I said, there's a lot of less melanated people congregating at this corner. What's going on? And then I was like, oh, it's Earth Day. So in honor of Earth Day, what specific action, I know we're saying contact, but some people don't even know what that means to contact them. So what specific actions can people take to connect with you on your mission as a consultant, maybe to develop a tribe that can maybe get some kind of responses?
I understand that last question was addressed in that direction as well. I hope to tell the listeners, Mr. Anderson, the story of how the boulevard came to be the outcome of the Cochaquota project, but the opposite is happening in the Kensington Expressway corridor. We're not going to have enough time for that, but I just want to address the portion of your question we do have time for. It's not too late. The governor seems to be a reasonable woman, even though she's incorrect on this issue, and her leadership is at fault here because she's rah-rahing this fake park that's going to be built, that's going to continue to spew polluted air into the Humboldt Parkway neighborhood. And in fact, it's going to be a higher level of polluted air that's going to be coming out of but not only both ends of the tunnel, but the air, we all know the air doesn't just blow in one direction. So in every direction of the Kensington Expressway, north, south, east, west, there's going to be a higher level of polluted air coming out of and around this so-called park that the governor keeps cheering on. So I'm not championing the park. And on that note, I want to say that what Betty Jean did say about contacting the governor, contacting the assemblywoman, contact the senator, contact even the congressperson who left office at a very strategic time, right at the cusp of this becoming an issue. So on that note, I'll throw it back to you, Mr. Anderson.
Okay, we'll go to a break and we'll be back. So stay tuned and remember you can join us 716-837-1112.
You guys are so knowledgeable about this, all this information. I wish that people could come out and even like when you're doing that, like contacting sessions to help them.
Well, they're doing that,
Yeah.
and I think that's a good talk about the meeting, when people can come to a meeting, as well as calling the governor. And that's the thing about this moment.
But you know what? We're knowledgeable because we have researched.
Yeah.
Everything that say 33 Expressway, we read. Everything that say Humboldt Parkway, we read. I'm going back to the history of knowing that the Central Park was built by the guy who built the Humboldt Parkway, Ferdinand Armstead and Calvin Fox. And what happened in Central Park is there was a population of African American that was African American, and they were displaced, and it was eminent domain. And they created this park because the people in downtown Manhattan need a green space.
Irish were there too.
But they disrupted a whole
Seneca Village.
Seneca Village to do that. And so it seemed like African American have been expendable everywhere. Tulsa, Greenwood. We have Rosewood.
Where an expressway was also built through. Once they built up the Greenwood district again, after that race riot, that massacre, it wasn't a riot, it was a massacre. But they put a highway through when the government, federal and state government saw the Black people of the Greenwood district rebuilt Black Wall Street through their own money because the insurance industry did not help them. They built it back up to where it was before. Then the government's response was to put a highway straight through the middle of it, just like they did Humboldt Parkway.
Right. And you know what? Now we got investment from Bangladeshis and Arabs coming to the inner city, and they're putting businesses on Genesee Street, Broadway, Sycamore. We don't have the money, so we're not opening business. They open supermarkets on Fillmore, Broadway. They open so many businesses, pharmacies, shoe stores, anything you want to name, liquor store. They put it there. So at a time when we're trying to promote businesses on inner city, I can't say Black businesses because we don't have the money. There are many businesses being there. There's a movement to channel that traffic that needed on these streets in a tunnel. People come from Cheektowaga, going downtown via the 33 Expressway, would not shop at these stores. They would not shop. They did a study. If you look at downtown, there's radio streets, Genesee, Broadway, Sycamore, Clinton Street. They all reach for downtown.
We're back, and while we were out, we were continuing talking, but we're back, and we're going to continue talking.
Yeah, absolutely. If you talk about economic development, you say, "Oh, this $1 billion going to be buried." Can you imagine that? Buried in the ground, $1 billion with the tunnel and all the other work that's going to be done. And meanwhile, we have an inner city that needs economic development. Our people need to work, even if the jobs that went to our workforce went to them with the tunnel. Those jobs are going to be low-skilled jobs. It's going to last for 4 years. And once that's over with, that's going to be it. That tunnel is going to be there forever. You never remove it. And the opportunity of our gain for employment is not going to happen. But we have radio streets that reach from downtown, City Hall, I'll say, Niagara Square, all the way down to past Cheektowaga, to Lancaster. You can take Broadway and Walden. You can take Clinton Street from Buffalo to outside of Cheektowaga to Lancaster, whatever. If we were stressed traffic on those streets, they're commercial strip. They're not residential. So that's what they're made for, car traffic. They used to be, if you look at a picture of 1950, every street was filled.
Listen,
Every street was filled.
Broadway,
booming.
Michigan, Genesee, Sycamore. I mean,
Right. So if you restore the parkway, it would create more low paying job because without a job like hauling dirt, putting in trees can be done with very not that much technical skill. Because it's going to take 4 or 5 years to train somebody to work on a construction bill put in a tunnel. So you have the restoration, which will cost 1/2 of the money that the tunnel is going to cost. So you put the restoration in the trees that's not going to be uprooted every 30 years to replace the roof of that tunnel, which will happen. We would have to spend $5 million to maintain, which is going to cost to maintain that tunnel. Once you put those trees in, it's gone forever. That initiative is going to be there forever. And if we would do that and start focused on building up our commercial strips, it's going to create more opportunity, more jobs, and more business so Black people can open those businesses that we had so many years ago.
I agree with you. You know, before the show started earlier, I was talking with Lee, and I mentioned to him, I do think it is wrong for them to, because there appears to be this threat. I heard so many people say, well, if you don't use this money, you'll lose it. You ain't gonna get it. And
tactic.
you know, it's not true, but I hate that they try and do that. And in the whole process of trying to force the issue.
Exactly.
And I think people should know that when people start threatening you in a negative
Slow
way.
everything
That's
down.
right.
Here's my here. Why use the money? It's going to be killing more people.
This is what I'm
It's gonna make
saying.
people sick.
I'd rather our community say, no, take your money and go elsewhere if that's what you
But
want
they
to
got
blame.
that's why, because they live here. Tim Kennedy lives in Buffalo. Christopher Peoples-Stokes, our similar person, lives in Buffalo. The governor lives in Buffalo. Why would 3 people who are directly in charge and bringing this tunnel idea here would take the money away from Buffalo, from their own city? Now, let's think about that. The money's
Yeah.
going to stay.
So it was a
whether
scare
the tunnel-
tactic.
No,
Bullying.
that's right, Sherry.
Bullying.
That's trying to make, that's a way of trying to look. It's sort of like, it's not so much a message to you.
Right.
It's a dog whistle to everybody else. It's like to say, look at them. They keep making a fuss. And if they keep making a fuss, we're going to take the money and put it elsewhere.
No, they're not.
See, no, they're not. And this is what
Bridges are
people have
falling
to
down.
understand.
You know, the bridges around the 33 Expressway are falling down. They doing the Utica Bridge right now. A lot of infrastructure is rusting. That is going to be fixed.
Mr. Anderson, when I first heard about the Kensington Expressway, response, why are they complaining? Is this
Mhm.
more of
Exactly.
the people complaining just for the heck of complaining? And I've heard, I think I heard one of the elected officials even expressing that kind of a sentiment. And so I began to backtrack myself and I listened to what they were actually saying. And when I listened to what they were actually saying, I thought to myself, I'm going to lit drop the Humboldt Parkway neighborhood. And if God is on my side and I'm doing the right thing, I'm going to, you know, if I'm lucky to, I'm going to talk to some Humboldt Parkway neighborhood residents and hear directly from them. Because the funny thing was, the people who were saying they were for the project were not Humboldt Parkway neighborhood. They didn't live on Humboldt Parkway. There were people who lived elsewhere. They lived nearby. And I know one of the elected officials, at least one, lives nearby. But I didn't hear people saying, I live on Humboldt Parkway and I want the Kensington Expressway to stay there forever and keep making people like my neighbors and my household members sick. I didn't hear anybody saying that. And when I did the lit drops, you know what I found? Because I wasn't wearing a mask when I did it, and I did that purposefully. What I found out is that every single month, I did it for 6 months, once a month. Every month that I did a lit drop, I was doing the equivalent, going up and down. All, if you know anything about Humboldt Parkway neighborhood homes designs, they have a lot of stairs. So I was doing the equivalent of light exercise. I began to show signs of environmental damage being done to my organism and me. I was short of breath sitting even at my computer. My eyes were watering, my nose was stinging. And anybody who thinks I'm not telling the truth, my hand is up here. If I had a Bible, it would be on it, but I don't take the word of God in vain. I would not lie to you. I know that when people say they are sick because of that expressway all up and down Woodlawn Avenue, it's almost like every other house. There is a veritable cancer alley circumstance on the Kensington Expressway corridor. Humboldt Parkway neighborhood residents are not kidding you. They're not lying to you, and they're not exaggerating when they tell you how many people they have in their families that have been made sick because of that highway.
You're absolutely right. You know, I'm a combat veteran of Vietnam, and just recently, well, as you know, many vets have been complaining about the kinds of conditions that they were experiencing from the different chemicals,
Right.
and being in what they call bomb pits where the fumes can get in you. Well, it's the same thing for cars with all that gas that is in the air there. And so, but the point I want to make is this: the VA, the Veterans Administration, wouldn't acknowledge that. It took years of veterans complaining about that.
Exactly.
And now
Good point.
I got called the other day to the VA by their environmental doctor on this issue. Want to know, you served in Vietnam, you were around all the different chemicals. And he said, you're automatic, you don't have to worry, you don't have to prove nothing. Your fact of being there, because you already know the damage of those chemicals, puts you in a certain range to have to be dealt with and taken care of. I raised that to say, we know that there's that problem with the fumes and stuff over in that area. And so nobody has to prove it. They know that there's a problem with it. And we're just now getting to the point of here now to acknowledge the problems around clean air.
Yes.
You know, we're just now getting to that. And so, but when you think about how long this has been going on, and how many people who are sick and don't even know it have conditions that they don't have a real understanding about, how dare them?
But let me say this too. See, we're talking about the environmental. If they put that tunnel in, they have to do some digging. They have to do some blasting. You got a Skajacota Creek right there at the Delavan, and not too far from where the northern porter of that tunnel ends. Once they put that tunnel is in forever. If it makes people sick, that's going to be the price we pay, because the tunnel cannot be removed. And there's radon gas there. There's asbestos there. When they start digging, that's going to be released into the environment.
Yes, it is. 500,000
What we have
pounds.
to do is recognize the fact too, that many people are not in favor of that tunnel. Some of them are afraid to say it publicly because they get money
Which is
from
crazy.
the government.
Why would anyone be afraid to say the right and truthful thing that's best for our people?
Some of them leave organizations, that very prominent organization, who said, you know, you guys are right, we support you, but we can't say anything because we've been threatened. When we signed on initially to support the restoration, the fill-in, and the move of the tunnel, we got a call or a visit from a elected official,
really true.
several elected officials saying, if you keep on, your funding for next year is going to be reduced. Now that is intimidation. I'm a
Coercion.
former politician. That is illegal. And me, if you tell me my funding is going to be cut because I can't raise my voice about environmental issue, then my duty as a citizen, my duty as a representative to get what this area has been compromised. So sometimes you have to say, you know what, like a lot of people in our history have done, they took that hit. Someone lost jobs, someone lost opportunities, someone lost political position, but they stood for the people. So you have to say, you know what, in spite of that, we are Women Warriors stand firm with the people. My group, it doesn't get one penny from anybody. It stands firm with the people, because that is what I said my mission was, to empower and to engage people. So if it's because a lot of people who call me on the back end say, you know, go ahead, keep up the fight. There have been members of ROC organization who publicly supported this tunnel because they were pressured in the early mid-2000s to support it, are calling telling us, keep up the fight. We can't fight because, they have jobs they're afraid to lose or whatever position, I don't know. But I'm not afraid to lose anything I have. I'm not afraid to lose it because I can get it back, okay? So we have people who support us and more people than at their margin support us. At this last March, we had 2 pastors to join us. 2 city pastors, Buffalo, to join us. I was very elated, surprised, and they said, don't worry, we're going to have more because we're going to be doing the right thing going forward. But I'm very disappointed that neither one of those pastors was Black. And there are 4 churches that's going to be directly impacted by the toxins going to be coming from that tunnel.
And a museum.
4 churches and a museum and a school that's going to be directly impacted by the increase of 130% of carbon monoxide that's going to come out of those portals. Don't forget the tunnel does not cover the whole expressway. It only cover 1/4 of the expressway, 3/4 of a mile, 1/4 of the expressway. The other 3/4 of the expressway are going to be exposed to 3 churches on the southern border, 2 churches on the northern border, 1 museum, 1 school.
And that school is within 494 feet. And the Spanish study has already shown that a school that's within 500 feet of a highway has children in that school that have lowered cognitive development. So the studies are existent. The New York State Department of Transportation has very intelligent people working for it. Our public elected officials are certainly not stupid people. They all know the truth, and it doesn't seem to make a difference because they don't live on Humboldt Parkway. But if you live within a mile of the Kensington Expressway, and we know the Kensington Expressway cuts through most of the east side. A lot of us live within a mile of the Kensington Expressway. I live within a mile. I'm right there on that mile mark, but I care. And I hadn't cornered the market on compassion. How come we have some people who care and who are not afraid to say we have an obligation to research, to do an environmental impact statement, and demand that of our governor, that one be done and a community health study be commissioned of the hub. That's why I asked UB to do one of the Humboldt Parkway neighborhood so that we can find out definitively, is the Kensington Expressway making our people sick, yes or no? And if it is, the lawsuits that we've been threatening need to commence so that we can get the project stopped and either the right project be done, which is a complete removal. I mean, if the Kensington Expressway, if Humboldt Parkway were in a white neighborhood, if that neighborhood had remained white,
it wouldn't do this.
they wouldn't have put that highway there, number one.
No.
But if they had put the highway there, and 69 years later came back and said, we're going to put $1 billion towards that same infrastructure that we put there that's made you people sick. And you may as well say you people, because that's how they're treating us, as if we're you people.
Yeah.
What do you think the white community of Humboldt Parkway neighborhood would say to do to that expressway? They wouldn't say keep it there. I guarantee you they wouldn't say.
I want to say it's true. If we're just blowing wind, if you think that we're bluffing, we are women warriors, Covington Associate Consultant, Eastside Parkway Coalition. All we're asking you is, if we're wrong, do the study. If there's no one has been sick or is sick or will be sick, do the study. If you find out that what we're saying is true, then maybe we need to reconsider that notion of putting that tunnel in. But if we said do the study, and you think we're out here just blowing wind, do the study.
That's what I agree.
And there's plaintiffs. There have been over 30 plaintiffs of people who say, I've been sick, I've lost family members. We have had community activists who live on Humboldt Parkway who have died, husband and wife. We have people there now, very well-known names, I'm not going to call their names and stuff, who are saying, doing the right thing. I can't do it because I work for the city. I can't do it because I work for the county. I can't do it because I work for the state and I will lose my job. But please, keep up the fight. And so they encouraged me because I know that I'm doing the right thing. Here's what you're going to say, that Beijing Grant was on the right side of Humboldt Parkway. Like the 35 other cities in this country that have taken their expressways out because it was killing people in their individual city, 35 of them, from Washington, D.C. to Washington to Seattle, Washington. they have taken out Expressway because they have been killing individuals.
And
We
another,
have a once in a lifetime opportunity to do two things: to remove the expressway and to put in back that park the way it was intended, and so that we can have the same amenity that they have at Bidwell Parkway, Jewett Parkway, and elsewhere.
exactly.
Why are African Americans fighting for a system that has killed them and will continue to kill them unless the expressway is removed? I don't understand it.
Well, I think it's quite clear. They don't truly represent the interests of the community. It's not when you have part of the community that is just settled and concerned about something, politicians should pay attention to that. But they're not willing to pay attention to it. One is if there's a particular dislike towards you. Let's just put it out there.
Right.
That they don't want to even hear it.
Absolutely.
And those who say, well, I can't say nothing, in this moment where everybody talking about see something, say something. I'd like to add to it, do something.
Right.
Well, one thing for sure, Sherry and yourself have been doing it, and others who also have been pointing this out. And then the problem is with our political so-called representative. They don't represent. If they were representing, they would be leading on this issue to say, hey, hold it. Put a pin there, no action until we do that environmental thing. You got a call come in. Caller, you on the air. Hold on, caller, hold on. Yep.
Okay, thank you for calling.
I could.
Thank Brother Mac. Brother Mac.
You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. They're going to put trees, small trees that only grow certain feet. They're only going to put 3 feet of soil, and the tree will grow sideways. And not only that, in 30 years, those trees that are growing sideways in the 3 feet of soil had to be removed because they expect that tunnel top will be damaged by the tree roots or wear and tear, and has to be removed. The trees had to be removed and the tunnel repair and then replanted again. So really, that's going to be a maintenance over the lifetime of our city. We're going to have to replace those trees.
This is a once in a generation project. We've heard those words coming out of our governor's mouth quite often. And anybody says, well, why should you keep talking about the governor? Because I recognize that the decision for a cap and stitch tunnel project, a retrofitting and a preservation of that highway versus a removal of that expressway, that decision came from somewhere. Some persons made it their business to say, we're not going to do what's in the best interest of the community.
That's right.
Who else but a governor would have that kind of power? Maybe an assembly person, maybe a senator, maybe all three of them. I don't know. And you know what? I don't care. What I care about is the fact that our community is suffering, and it's clear that our community is suffering. And those entities, those offices were told that our community is suffering over 15 years ago, and yet they allowed a farcical, a pretend community engagement and public participation process to be trotted out in front of us as if it was authentic. And I can play for you something that Senator Schumer said in Rochester about the community engagement process that happened in the city of Rochester. It was supposed to be the same way here.
I want to say the way you did in that. For those people who refute what we're saying, I'll say read all the information. Read information, research what happened in other cities. We've had meetings at the Meriwether Library. We had over 200 people. So the people of Buffalo, they're behind the restoration of Humboldt Parkway. They're not for the tunnel. But because the voice of the political authority is far-reaching and intimidating, and some of them needs favor, or some of them work for these entities, they won't say anything. They're pushing me. But you know what?
Or some just want to be a goon spot.
I don't mind it, because this is not the first time I've been on an unpopular area. When Chris Collins wanted to take every dime out of this city of Buffalo, and he did, It took me going public with my community, letting them know what was happening. An elected official who was working for the city did not do that. I did as county legislator. I sounded the alarm, and people said, well, why don't you shut up? If I said shut up, we would not have our money for grant money from the county from 2011 to 2013. So it's going to take a person who's not afraid to lose. I got a house. I'll lose that house if I have to. I got a business. It means nothing to me. I can't take it when I leave here.
Okay.
But what I can do is be true to my community.
Yes.
I can be true to myself, and I can be true to leaving my children, grandchildren, a legacy that she fought for the people. She was not bought off. And I'm channeling Shirley Chisholm. I'm bossing on board. That is what I'm doing, and that's what I will continue to do as long as I remain on this earth. To fight for my community, to fight for my people, and to fight for my family.
You got that right. Well, one thing for sure, you both of you are a shining example on this issue. And for anyone that when you go to stand up, to know that the system will reject you as much as they can. We got another call, and caller, you're on the air. Caller, you're on.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Go ahead. We hear you.
And I've been participating in the meetings about the Kensington Expressway. I just saw on calendar 2015, I was at the library on Jefferson, Utica. On October 6th, 2015, that was meeting. Before that, I was meeting too. And I definitely think, ROTC put in and give the east side back the Humboldt Parkway, so it's a thing to do, and this was a new idea for ROTC when I introduced it. And they just told people in the room, and half the people agreed with me. It was a brand new idea. There were opinions all over the place about what should be done, but people don't understand the environmental impact studies. For the apartment building at 1111 Elmwood on the corner of Forest, the condominium building, I think there's 44 units or 45 units. They did an EIS for that project. It's just an apartment.
You got 2 minutes left in the show.
An EIS required.
Caller. I need to cut you there. Because we only got a couple of minutes left.
I want to say too, thank you for calling. You're absolutely correct. An environmental impact statement needs to be done. That's why they keep saying environmental impact assessment, because with that, you don't have to prove that the expression has harmed people. With the statement, you will have to. When they removed the I-81 from Syracuse, I asked the guy who did the removal. He said, I asked him, did you do an environmental impact statement for Syracuse? He said, yes. So why is it different for Syracuse and why they're not doing it in Buffalo? You know why they're not? Because they know that an environmental impact statement will absolutely show that people have been harmed about the expressway and will continue to be harmed by the expressway. Thank you for calling.
I hope to play what Senator Schumer said in Rochester.
I will take the rest.
Another thing. Once we get the money, guess who's going to be consulted and have a large say in how the project actually works? You. Washington. You. That's how we made it. Before you get the grants, but then the community has to be engaged and improve what is going to be done and some changes. Is that good news?
Yes, that's great news for Rochester.
We got another call for you coming. You see, even the senator did no a little bit. Anyway, caller, you're on the air. You're on. Yes.
I thank you for your call. It's kind of hard. You know what? If you want to call in Thursday, at the 11:30. We're on the show again Thursday on the same radio station Thursday, 11:30 to 12. But you're absolutely correct. We have to pray, and we're asking our elected, not elected, but our elected and appointed pastors of these churches, the under Humboldt Parkway and other churches, to pray with us and to help us, because we're fighting for the people. We're fighting for the same individual.
We're going to pray, and we're also going to do, because as the great Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. said, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, without hard work, even time itself becomes an ally of the social forces of stagnation. So what we're going to do, we're going to pray, we're going to be mindful, but we're going to be diligent, and we're going to walk.
Well, Sherrill, Betty Jean Grant, thank you. And listeners, community, you know what we got to do. Let's do it. And hey, look, we're off the air, I'm pretty sure, but we also, you know, as you listen to, we need to bring a consistent stance against them until they do what is right. If they want to say you're wrong, let them do environmental
And we
stuff.
got once in a lifetime opportunity to correct the wrong that was done to this community and done to us in the mid-1960s. One chance to do it. And we'll see you Thursday at 11:30. What's the name of our
Thank
show?
you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you both.